All right, let's dive into a story that really makes you think. It asks this incredible question. What would happen if a little kid's faith was so strong it started causing events that science just can't explain? We're talking about a story that sparks a massive media firestorm and puts a family right in the center of a hurricane. This is the story of the miracle boy of KLA7 News.
So it all kicks off with this one Bible verse. You know, the one that says, believers can perform even greater works. For most of us, that's just a metaphor, right? It means go out and do good things. But for a certain 9-year-old boy, those aren't just words, they're instructions.
And that right there, that is the core question we're digging into. What actually happens when a kid takes this verse, this promise, literally? And let me tell you, the answer involves healings that should be impossible, a total media circus, and eventually, life or death stakes.
Okay, so let's meet the boy at the heart of all this chaos, 9-year-old Brian Weber. And his whole incredible journey doesn't start with some big miracle. Nah, it starts with a really simple question that his own family just can't or maybe won't answer for him.
You see, the first real conflict isn't out in the world, it's right there in his living room. Brian is just captivated by the Bible. He finds it super interesting. But his dad, Simon, who's a TV news anchor of all things, is a complete skeptic. He basically tells the son, there is no God, Brian, and wants him to stop reading it. So right away, you have this clash that pushes Brian to find answers somewhere else.
But Brian is not a kid who gives up easily. When his dad actually takes away his school essay about faith, Brian doesn't just drop it. He decides to take his questions to the one person he thinks might actually listen, a local pastor.
And you might think the pastor would tell him to, take it easy. But no, he basically gives him rocket fuel. He tells Brian to listen to God and to do exactly what he tells him. For a 9-year-old kid looking for a green light, man, this was it. This was all the permission he needed.
And with that one piece of advice, Brian's private little quest for answers is about to go public in the most explosive way you can imagine. This is where a personal belief turns into a national media event.
So the first domino falls when Brian runs into a veteran, Captain Iberson, who lost his leg in Afghanistan. Brian just offers a simple prayer for him, and moments later, the impossible happens. The captain's amputated leg doesn't just heal, it literally physically grows all the way back. I mean, we're not just talking about a miracle here, we're talking about something that is biologically impossible.
The story just explodes. Is it real? Is it some elaborate hoax? The media doesn't even care. This is ratings gold. And here's the ultimate irony. The anchor reporting on the miracle boy for KLA7 News is none other than Simon Weber, who has absolutely no idea he's talking about his own son.
And right away, a media war erupts. Simon's station, KLA7, is pretty cautious about it, but his main rival, a guy named Robert Brookwood, goes on the attack, promising to expose what he calls a so-called miracle and accusing KLA7 of just trying to get ratings.
And before anyone can even really process what happened with the veteran, it happens again. Brian prays with a mother at a church, and her baby, who was born blind, can suddenly see. So what was just a crazy viral story is now becoming a full-blown phenomenon, and the media frenzy just gets more intense.
Well, with this kind of media storm, it was only a matter of time before Brian's identity got out. And the second the world knows who he is, his family's life just completely unravels.
And the reveal is just brutal. The rival anchor, Brookwood, ambushes Brian at his school, live on camera. And in that one instant, Simon Weber, the objective newsman, disappears. He's replaced by Simon Weber, the father, just desperately trying to shield his son from the very media machine he's a part of.
The fallout is immediate, and it is catastrophic. Simon gets fired because his station thinks he's part of a scam. The school suspends Brian to avoid all the controversy, and then their landlord evicts them because of the constant media circus outside their apartment. In just a few hours, they've lost their job, their school, and their home.
But Robert Brookwood? He's not done yet. Oh no. He invites Brian onto his show for something he literally calls an anchor's ambush. It's a televised crucifixion. First, he mocks Brian for needing glasses himself. Then, he brings a little girl with a severe muscular disease on stage and challenges Brian to heal her on command. When Brian can't, Brookwood triumphantly declares him a fraud to the entire world.
So you're probably thinking it can't get any worse than that, right? Well, hang on, because the story is about to take a very sharp, very dark turn away from the newsroom and straight into the world of organized crime.
Right after that humiliating TV interview, Brian is just walking down the street feeling like he's failed everyone, failed God, and a car pulls up.
He's grabbed, thrown inside, and driven away. He's been kidnapped.
But his kidnapper isn't who you'd expect. It's not a rival network or some crazed skeptic. It's a mob boss, Don Carlo. And the reason is just stunning. It turns out Don Carlo accidentally shot his own son, who's now lying in a coma. He's kidnapped the miracle boy out of pure, raw desperation, hoping he can force a miracle at gunpoint. And there, in a hospital room surrounded by mobsters, the third miracle happens. Brian prays for the son, Benny, and the boy wakes up from his coma. This one wasn't for the cameras. There were no ratings involved. This was real.
Okay, so all of this, the miracles, the media, the kidnapping, it's all been leading to one final, public, and incredibly dangerous test of faith, where every single character in this story is about to collide.
The final showdown happens at the church. The Webbers are there with Brian's friend Becky. And wouldn't you know it, they're confronted by her father, the ultimate skeptic, anchor Robert Brookwood. And right in the middle of this argument, a shot rings out. A hitman hired to silence this whole miracle story for good was aiming for Brian. He misses, the bullet hits Becky, and she dies right there in her father's arms.
Can you even imagine that moment? It is absolute devastation. The man who publicly ridiculed prayer and faith is now cradling his dead daughter. There's nothing left to do. The only thing they can do is what Brian has been doing all along. Pray.
And in that moment, fueled by desperation and maybe a tiny sliver of hope, the final, ultimate miracle happens. Resurrection. Robert Brookwood, the man who built his entire career on exposing frauds, watches with his own eyes as his daughter comes back to life.
So, what do we make of all this? Is it just a story about faith? Or is it something more? A kind of parable for our time? A commentary on a media that demands proof on camera, and an audience that treats belief and skepticism like just another form of entertainment? It really forces you to ask, in a world this saturated with media, what does it actually take for us to believe in something we can't see?